One morning, James was ready to take a local train on the main line, but first he had to fill his tender up with water. So he waited at the water tower while his driver filled his tender up with water. Once he was full, James made his way to collect his passengers. James's journey was running smoothly. But when he came to Gordon's Hill, James began to feel a little strange, and he was starting to feel a pain in his boiler. "Oof," groaned James. "I don't feel so well." He tried to make it to the top of the hill, but it was no use. James came to a complete stop. James's guard went to telephone for help, and soon Edward came to take charge of the train and take James to the steamworks along the journey. A few days later, James was mended at the steamworks and returned to his usual jobs. At Crovan's Gate, James stopped at the station to exchange passengers with Duncan. James told Duncan all about what happened with his boiler the other day. "I took some water from the water tower at Tidmouth Sheds and I got boiler sludge," he told Duncan. "My boiler was in a lot of pain, but I feel much better now." Duncan only laughed at James's predicament. "Narrow gauge engines like me never get boiler sludge," he said. "The only reason you got it was because your boilers are bigger than ours and our water is nice and clean compared to yours. With our small boilers and clean water, we'd never get it." James snorted as the guard's whistle sounded and Duncan set off with his coaches. Later that day, Duncan told the other engines about James and his boiler sludge. "If we didn't have such clean water and smaller boilers, we'd be bound to get boiler sludge in our boilers just like those bigger engines," he said. "Stuff and nonsense," said Rheneas. "No matter how big or small our boilers are or how clean or dirty water is, everyone gets boiler sludge at some point or another." "You're only saying that to wind my wheels up and get me all worried inside. Narrow gauge engines never get boiler sludge," replied Duncan. "Isn't that right, lads?" But Sir Handel and Peter Sam puffed away and paid no attention to a single word Duncan said. Next day, Duncan was sent by Mr. Percival to collect some stone from the Blue Mountain Quarry. He collected his stone trucks and started off with his train. Halfway through the journey, Duncan had to stop and take on water as his tanks were nearly empty. boiler sludge, I'll never get it, he puffed to himself. Soon his tanks were full, and Duncan went on his way again. Duncan was making good time with his stone. But suddenly, he began to feel a strange pain in his boiler, something he never felt before. "Driver, please stop! I'm getting some kind of pain inside my boiler." Duncan's driver stopped the train and Duncan could go no further. Duncan's driver telephoned for another engine to help, and Rusty was sent to take Duncan to the steamworks and drop his trucks off at the transfer yards. The next day, Duncan returned from the steamworks and was feeling a bit better. He went to pick up passengers from James at Crovan's Gate. "So, Duncan, I heard you went to the steamworks recently. Would you like to tell me why?" "I got boiler sludge," he said dreadfully. James and Rheneas could only help but laugh at what had happened. "And they say narrow gauge engines don't get boiler sludge," chuckled Rheneas. The two engines laughed a lot, but Duncan thought that they were really being very silly indeed.